This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Alpena City Council meeting of November 1st, 2021. Call the order, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Here.
Councilman Mitchell.
Here.
Councilman Nowak.
Here.
Councilman Osmer.
Here.
And Mayor Walker.
Here. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilman Nowak.
Yes.
Councilman Osmer.
Yes.
And Mayor Walker.
Right.
Motion carried.
Any proposed modifications to the agenda? Approval of the minutes for regular session of October 18th, 2021. Any issues, changes? Citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to address your concerns. This is the only time during tonight's council meeting you're allowed to address council. If you'd like to do so and you're live at our meeting, please come to the podium and state your name and address for our records.
Hi, my name is Mary Catherine Hanna. I just wanted to come introduce myself. I am the new Alpena County Administrator and I have been meaning to come, and I apologize for not making it sooner, but I wanted you guys to see my face and me to see all of your faces. And I look forward to the county and the city working together in the future. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And so do we.
Exactly.
Anyone else here live? Anyone on the virtual thing? John? Thank you. All right, there's no hearing, so we'll move down to the consent agenda. A is bills to be allowed in the amount of $391,887.81. B is a mayoral appointment of Jackie Krawczak and Carol Lund to the Compensation Committee for a 5-year term expiring on November 1st, 2026. C is a mayoral reappointment of Clayton VanWagoner to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term expiring on November 1st, 2024. And D is a council reappointment of Elizabeth Littler and Vernie Nethercut to the to the Wildlife Sanctuary Board for a 3-year term expiring on November 1st, 2024.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilman Nowak.
Yes.
Councilman Osmer.
Yes.
Mayor Walker.
Aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. And our only announcement tonight is that tomorrow is a city election to be held November 2nd.
That would be tomorrow.
For the 2 council member seats, polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. New voters can register to vote at the clerk's office up until 8 p.m. on election day. Anything to add on that?
Forward to it.
The report of officers, we have the Alpena County Hazard Mitigation Plan, and the city manager is here.
Good evening, everyone. In the spring of 2020, the Office of Emergency Management distributed surveys to local government partners, the city of Alpena, and to the city of Alpena, seeking information for the county's hazard mitigation plan. So this plan was recently submitted by FEMA, recently approved by FEMA. And so the final step in the process is for us to approve a resolution. I won't read through all of that. The county did approve at their monthly meeting on September 29th. So they're asking all of the participating municipalities to do that. And below I provided a couple of links that you could view the mitigation plan, and also some additional information regarding just hazard mitigation plans in general. And also in the packet, you have a resolution for your review and potential approval.
All right, anybody questions or anything about that?
Okay.
A long laid out plan that they went through. A motion to adopt resolution, or the resolution to adopt the plan.
I move we approve resolution 2021-19.
Councilman Nowak.
Yes.
Councilman Osmer,
Yes.
Mayor Walagora.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Councilman Mitchell. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks. For new business, we have ambulance rates, and Chief Forbush is here for that.
Good evening, Council. Every few years, and it's been a few since we last did this, but every few years, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Studies, the federal government, working with Blue Cross and other insurers, changes the rates for various medical procedures, what's allowed. And if you don't change your rates at that point, then you charge less than they'll pay, and that's probably not very good business. So what we're looking at doing here is just changing 3 of the rates. The mileage is in pretty good shape. The only rates that need to change is Advanced Life Support 1, Advanced Life Support 2, and Critical Care. And so we're recommending a increase up to the BCBS maximum or 5%, whichever is lower, because our county contract says we can't go up more than 5% without asking the county first. And we don't want to do that. So currently ALS 1, which is most of our emergency calls, base rate's $575. We'd like to bump that to $611, which is a $36 and some difference. ALS 2, which is a more advanced ALS run, cardiac arrest, for example, where there's a lot of procedures done, from $750 to $785, $35. And critical care MICU transfers, a base of $875 goes to $918 for a raise of $43. The neat part is that most residents won't see that. The base rates are generally covered by insurance. The mileage sometimes is and sometimes isn't, depending upon how far away they send the ambulance. But the base rates almost always are, and we do have a $200 discount for all Alpena County residents that comes off co-pays or deductibles. Usually that means that for an emergency call, you shouldn't see a bill at all. On an interfacility transfer, you might, but those are much longer, of course, obviously. That's all we're looking to do at this point is just bump up to the next level that's permitted. So it's my recommendation as fire chief that we amend the fee schedule in this year's budget to increase the ambulance rates as detailed above. Are there any questions, or can I help with anything?
When does that new rate go into effect?
As soon as you approve it.
Do they do, I know the rate, that's the rate for pretty much across the board in
Yeah.
municipality. It's not based on,
Every ambulance provider in the country does the same maximum rates. Same for everybody.
that's what I wanted to understand.
Just in case there's anything that with the data service of today or tonight, that starts tomorrow.
Perfect. I defer to Anna, who knows all on these things.
It's in my mind, I go. Tonight.
I don't have anything planned. I was just curious.
I'm no,
Thank you very much, Council.
I move we approve the amended fee schedule for ambulance rates as presented,
Active tomorrow.
effective tomorrow or 11/2.
Support Mitchell.
Yes. Thank you.
Councilman Osmer,
Yes.
Mayor Walagora.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell
Yes.
and Councilman Noah.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next up is the Planet/History Walk proposal for Besser Museum, and Gary Gorin, is that correct? Gorin
Yes.
is here from the Besser Museum Board.
Thank you for letting me address you today, and I want to thank in advance our city manager and engineer, Steve and Rachel, have been very helpful in this process, and they put together a packet, which you should have, and on the packet is a little map, and Steve did a good job of condensing it. Again, my name is Gary Gorin. I've been a resident for over 20 years here in Alpena. I got a little bit of a story to tell you. First, about a dozen years ago, I took my kids, they were little then, to Ithaca, New York, which is a really cool place. They have a saying, Ithaca is gorgeous, because there's gorges all over with waterfalls, and it's a really pretty place, and it has Cornell University, and Carl Sagan was one of the professors at Cornell. And when he passed away, they created a planet walk through the downtown area of Ithaca. So they have in scale form from the commons area in the center of town, the sun, and it goes out to a science museum to Pluto, which was not demoted, being a planet in those days. Now it's, it's been relegated to the minor planet stage. But it was really cool. We had a passport for the Ithaca Planet Walk, and my kids loved it. It was really neat. And I thought, what a neat idea. That was really great. And then I found myself living in Lansing for about 5 or 6 years. And lo and behold, there's another Planet Walk there. It starts right at the Impression 5 Museum, right downtown. And if you're familiar with Lansing, it goes along the river trail until you get to the Potter Park Zoo, which is where Pluto is. Again, it was a planet in those days. And it's a really neat path. And if you look up things to do in Lansing, tourist attractions, it's actually one of the highlights that you'll see in downtown Lansing. And I thought, gosh, what a great idea to have this going here in Alpena. And I was blessed to be picked to be on the board at the Besser Museum. And I brought it up to the staff there, and they were very receptive to the idea. Keep in mind, we have the only planetarium here in northern Lower Michigan. The only other planetarium in northern Michigan is in Marquette. And what a cool idea to be able to bring more attention to the museum and to the planetarium specifically. Christine, our executive director, came up with the idea of having a history walk in conjunction with it. In other words, on one side, it would be a planet narrative. On the other side, it would actually have to do with the history of Alpena. On the other side, starting at the Native American days and bringing ourselves to the present. We voted on it at the Besser board meeting a few months ago, and they were all in favor of pursuing this project. And then almost coincidentally, a grant popped up, which would pay for the vast majority of this Planet Walk. And so everything seems to be falling in place. We still have to get the grant, obviously, but and there is a 30% cash match, but we're willing to deal with that at the Besser Museum. And so I guess what I'm asking this board for is a letter of support for our grant, number one, and number two, an approval to place signs, as Steve has put onto this map, for the 8 planets now remaining, with the sun being at the Besser Museum and then going along the bypass, the bike path, all the way to Neptune, which would end up in SciTech Park. It would be about a 3-mile trip. And I would work with the city engineer, exactly where they would go. We have flexibility on where the planets fall, but we want to keep them relatively similar to, the scale to where we are. We needed 3 letters of support for the grant, and we have one from the city council, we have one from the Chamber of Commerce and one from Mary Beth over at Alpena area CVP. And I passed out a letter, and surprisingly, they actually agreed without even being asked to chip in on the match for the grant, which I thought was very, very generous of them if we got the grant. And I guess that's my presentation, unless you have any questions. And I'm happy to talk to you about Pluto if you want.
I can advocate for Pluto to be included with a date of death, I suppose. Gary, on the map, so are the distances between here, are they as the crow flies, or are those the distances as a person would travel?
This is as the person would travel. So instead of a person would start at the museum and then proceed down Johnson Street where the bike path is, and then as you can see, they would come down Chisholm for a ways and follow the bike path. So that's why it's a kind of a windy trail. If the bike path were straight and perfect, that might be a different path. But we tried to pick spots that would work for the planets by, at the same time trying to justify the distances. As you can see, the inner planets are all lumped together near the museum, and then they spread out as you get to SciTech Park.
And I guess my only concern would be, and for Steve, when you guys are selecting where these go, is to be as respectful as possible about the view to the water and the river where they meet. Specifically on Washington Park, where Uranus will be located, because we've already had some issues with different.
Yeah, it's pretty close to where the bike sculpture is right now, so we'll have to maybe place it in front of a tree, something like that that's already there.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thought right now. So
I think that would be best. So that's I think it's a great program. I just kind of want to be a little bit cautious depending on the size of them, just because of the view of the river from those.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Otherwise, yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's really cool. Anybody else, some questions?
And I just have a couple of questions, and I think it's a fantastic program. Will the signs be uniform, or will they be kind of relation to how big the planet is?
Right. The signs will be uniform, but within the sign, there will be an actual size of a planet. And so the sun itself at the Besser Museum is not included really as a regular sign. It's going to be an actual ball. And then the balls within the sign will correspond to the sun, which will be much smaller. And I did give you some sample signs in your packet from other locations. There's as it says in your packet, there's over 100 planet walks in the United States. And so there's all different designs to pull from, but the signs themselves are uniform, in answer to your question.
And then will there be a plan for upkeep over time?
Right, that's a great question, and that was something we at the museum talked about. We will be responsible for the upkeep of the signs, and if there's something that happens to them, we will take care of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you want a motion for letter of support, or?
So you would, he's requesting a letter of support from the city, which I can work with him on, and then for placement of those signs, which will work with city engineering.
Sure.
So I'll move that we let Rachel do a letter of support on our behalf and placement of the signs between Rachel and city staff.
Second.
Thank you.
Mayor Walagora.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilman Nowak.
Yes.
And Councilman Osmer. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Stuff, huh?
That's it.
I move we adjourn to closed session to discuss the update regarding proposed litigation with the Alpena Prototype Biorefinery LLC, American Process Incorporated, and Grand Bio LLC, and also to discuss the water and sewer litigation.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilman Nowak.
Yes.
Councilman Osmer.
Yes.
And Mayor Walagora.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Bill, and I'm assuming that you don't expect any action coming from this. So if anybody's on the virtual meeting and they were going to stick around for us, we're basically just going to come back and adjourn because we won't be taking any action. And anyone live as well, too. So.
The door is open.
All right.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
I gotta do that.
If we go all the way